Hey everyone, it's Desiree. Yes, this is the November 2017, my monthly Hero Arts kit. Just a little behind. This kit was just focused on tags, and for those of you that see my previous videos, I love tags. But we kind of do something a little different, so you'll see. So I also, in this month's purchase, I also purchased some of the extras. Again, love making tags. That's what goes on all my gifts. Whenever I give out, I never use a store-bought tag. So I love the 2 stamp sets. That Santa die is just absolutely precious. Bought a large background stamp, and it's got some pretty thick lines, so there's not much able to move there, but we're going to give it a go. And then, of course, that stencil. So these are the extras. You may see some of these within the projects. So I say card 1. It's not really a card, so let's see what we come up with. So I'm going to use the copper pigment ink that came in the kit. There was a copper and I believe a gold that came in the kit. I think I only used the copper actually. And I'm using 5 of the sentiment stamps that all are in this font. And I believe it's Love, Joy, Cheer, Wish, and Peace. So I'm going to stamp them out. And then I'm going to use that die there in the upper corner of my screen. It's kind of the oblong rectangle there. Oblong rectangle? No, rectangle. Rectangles are already oblong. And then I'm going to pull in my sponge dauber. I am a fan of the fingertip sponge daubers. I do like the handheld, but I manipulate better with these, even if I'm doing a background. Sometimes it all depends. I do have a whole set. I have actually 2 of these. Scrapbook.com is having a huge sale. You can get 40 daubers. In that case, it's regularly $50 for 25 bucks. I'll link it below. Also, not only did I distress around the sentiments, okay, that was a little PR there, you know, just, again, it's cheap, so I'm letting y'all know. I also distressed around 2 craft trees that were already cut out and 3 of the blue snowflake die cuts that were provided in the kit. I've pulled out my black soot distress oxide ink, and I'm going to water that down. I just put it on an acrylic block. I didn't want to pull out one of my craft mats, and I'm watering it down, and I'm just going to do splatters on these pieces. Now I'm also going to be using the whites for the backing for these pieces that I'm creating. But the reason why I chose the oxide is, 1, I love them, and 2, when they dry, it's a chalky look. It's not a harsh black, it's a soft black, if that makes sense. And that's what I was kind of going for. I've put foam squares on the back of the sentiments, and the ones that are horizontal are going to go on the snowflakes, and the ones that are vertical are going to go on the trees. So now I'm going to pair up one of the white cutouts that were supplied in the kit and just apply glue around the opening for a thread or string or ribbon, and just put it around there, and I'm going to attach it to one of the pieces that is either craft or the blue out of the trees or the snowflakes. So you can still open them. Again, if you've watched my previous videos, that is how I do a tag. I always have a front and a back. It's always a 2-layer. So I have this piece of string. It's a baker's twine. I have a huge cone of it. I just like the natural color when it comes to the baker's twine, or different colors. So I'm going to place these, and since I have the opening, I can push the twine right up to where the glue line is. And these can come off, but I'm just going to string them. So we're going to make a little tiny banner, you know, where we can decorate a mantle, over a door, a shelving unit, whatever you want to decorate. I'm going to put a knot on each end, something very simple, you know, not getting too fancy with beads and whatnot, but you can. You can add some beads or trinkets or whatever you have, charms. Now I also have black and white baker's twine. Now I get my baker's twine, whether it's the natural color or the 2 colors that you always see me use a lot, which is either black and white or a aqua and white. I get that from Paper Mart. You can get like 200 yards. I think it's like $8. I bought them a long time ago and I still have them. So I'm just going to use that baker's twine and I'm going to create my tags, my tag strings coming off of the snowflakes and the trees. I also like to secure, since this is kind of a banner, I'm not looking for those to flop around. So I'm going to use my glue dots and just secure the end of the tassel or string loop down onto the pieces. So there you go. We have a cute little banner. You can write something to do. You can make an advent, you know, do 25 days if you want, and write something to do in each of the days. Something different. So I was playing around because this kit had me stumped a couple of times. Yes, I could do tags, but you know what? I wanted to do more. So I found my Judykins Frosted Twinkle embossing powder, and I was playing around with the good old distressed inks. So the ornament that I showed you before, it was almost candy looking. So I'm going to show you how I did this. Yes, Jennifer McGuire, I know she did it before, but she recently did it in a video. I believe it was with mistletoe. And I'm now just hooked with this idea of using my daubers to put the ink onto my stamp to get blending, to get different colors, to get shading. Very much enjoying it, which you all know is dangerous with me because I'll stick with it. Grabbed my distress sprayer, and off camera I'm just going to lightly spritz it 4 times, but very far away. I was about 2 feet away when I did the spritzing, going down onto it, because I wanted water, but I didn't want too much. And when you lift it, you can see that the colors blend. It's not a perfect stamp, but that's okay. I don't need it to be perfect. These are the 3 colors I used: Tumbled Glass, Evergreen Bough, and Pine Needle. I'm then going to use 3 shades, or 2 shades of blue. I believe it's Salty Ocean, Chip Sapphire, and then there's like a gray, but there's a blue tint to it, Weathered Wood. Did the same thing, the darker at the bottom, mid-tone in the center, and then the light at the very top. Now I should have crossed over my colors just a little bit more, but again, it's still okay. The water's going to push underneath that stamp for the most part. And the next step is actually going to cover up these imperfections. So I'm grabbing my Versamark ink, and I'm grabbing my embossing anti-static pouch, which I'm really liking. I still do like the other tool. I think it's still very good, but I am kind of enjoying the ease of the pouch. So I inked up the stamp, same stamp that I used before with my Versamark, and I'm going to line it up and go straight down onto this image that we use, the distress inks. Look at the size of that bottle. The bottle is huge with that Judykins. So I embossed, or put embossing powder on both, and I'm actually going to show you when I heat set this. You can see that when it's heat set, it actually goes to a sugar white. It's not clear just with sparkle like the Hero Arts. It's actually got a tint to it. And I just thought it was really pretty. It reminds me of those old-fashioned glass ornaments. I have my grandmother's. We split them between me and my sister. But it just, for some reason, reminded me of those. And I do love those ornaments. So it's kind of what inspired me between, of course, Jennifer McGuire, her technique, and just the look that this was giving. So I've die cut the 3 ornaments out using, of course, the die that came with the kit. And now we're just going to play around with the setting of them. Yes, we used the wonky die. Wonky die's made an appearance. And I'm going to use the sentiment, happy everything. I love that sentiment. Everything should be happy. I like to say happy holidays. I like to say happy Christmas. Everything we do should make us happy. So I found this silver ribbon in my stash, so I pulled that out, and I'm just going to thread that through the top of the ornaments, and I just want the one tassel to come down. You all know me and my bows. I'm good with knots. I can do knots. I can do knots very well, actually. So I've strung the 3, so the 2 on the outer end are cut on an angle with the tassel that's coming in, and the one in the center I fishtailed. I'm not sure, my OCD, I think, kicked in. So I just did that. So I'm going to use my mini glue dots, not the micro, but the mini, and I'm going to secure the tassel in place. It was really driving me crazy if they were going to like either curl up off the card or just go in different ways. So I wanted to manipulate them to stay where I wanted them to stay. I'm using my art glitter glue for the two on the outer edge to secure them in place on my card base. And then you'll see that I will use foam squares for the center ornament and secure that in place as well. Once we have the foam tape on, we're going to set that just a little bit up in the center. Now I also grab my, it's like a score tape. I do like score tape, but I really only use it for one item, one of the items that I make. I make scrapbook albums as well. But this is called Scrappy Tape, and I get it from scrapbookpal.com, and I really like it. I think it's just as good, and it's a little bit less costly. So I like to put some strips down on that so that the ribbon can fall down on that. It's a little bit more secure so that the ribbon doesn't keep shifting on the card once it's on the card base. So I'm just going to trim off the edges because we don't need all of that ribbon back there. And I'm going to use some fun foam to prop this up. You know, it was funny, again, this kit really made me look at things and try some techniques and everything else like that. You know, we always seem to use our double-sided foam tape to prop up our card bases. You know what? That's expensive. You figure you use about 15 inches of your foam tape. You use a piece of fun foam, you're looking at 10 cents a sheet, and you can get 4 cards out of it. Do the math. I did. And that was our card, as I was rambling there for a little tidbit on how to save money and prop up our cards. Here's another technique that I was coming across. I'm sure somebody else has done this. I'm sure Jennifer McGuire. But, you know, we use sponge daubers to manipulate our inks and all of that. Why not do it with Versamark ink? So I'm going to take the snowflake stamp, and I prepped my page, and I'm just putting Versamark in the center of this stamp. I'm going to jot out on the points that come further out on the snowflake. But just pushing it around with the sponge dauber, I'm going to push pretty hard down onto this to make sure that all the Versamark transfers over. And the first color I'm going to use is called Vintage Tinsel Mahogany. It's from Recollections. I get it from Michael's. It is the most gorgeous brown. It's got like it's not glitter, it's like a tinsel that goes in there. And I would never be able to stamp that even again with a sponge dauber. Ever again. Created a flower there. So we could just let it like that if we wanted to. So we're going to heat set in place. I'm going to shake this like there's no tomorrow and like we don't care. So to make sure that it is cool, I want to clean off the stamp, and then I'm going to go back in with my Versamark, and I'm going to do the outer part of the stamp. I'm going to make sure that I come in towards the center as well, knowing that when I jot out, it was on the outer points of the snowflake. This time I'm going to make sure that I go in on the points that aren't coming all the way out. So you just got to try to remember where you went in, where you went out, but it's okay. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I'm going to take this, and I'm good this time, because I'm going to show you another way to do this. I'm going to line up the stamp the exact way that I placed it before. You want to put some pressure, got to do some stamp CPR here to make sure that it does get down over where you've already stamped. And now I'm going to use this seafoam or aqua. I forget what this is called. I am so sorry. Again, it is another Recollections. It's got some beautiful glitter chunks in it. It's just a really pretty color. I do like the aqua and the brown, and I'm going to heat set that. So you can see the brown coming through underneath. Now, as my finger showed there, the second version. So you're going to do the same thing. So I'm really going to speed through this. But instead of placing the stamp exactly as you did before, turn it. So you can see the other one, you just see a resemblance or an image of the brown. On the one to the right, which is the one we'll use, you actually see the brown coming through on some of the leaves, which I thought was really cool. Going to use that wonky die again to create my design base, and I'm going to use the die to cut out the snowflake. For those of you that have the kit, I don't know if it was just me, but I found I had to keep on turning the die to make sure it was matching up correctly. If I just placed the die down, it wouldn't match up. I'm sure it was me. Just a little tidbit for those of you that have it, that haven't started playing with it. I pulled in my vintage photo and I distressed around the edges of the snowflake, and I put some foam squares there, but I'm not going to place it down yet. There's a couple more things that I want to add. I'm going to use my Early Espresso Stampin' Up! Ink. It's a beautiful dark brown. I really like it. It's a very deep, deep red brown. So knowing where I want to put my sentiment, Warmest Wishes, I'm going to use the snowflake stamp, the smaller one, that kind of matches this snowflake with the print. And I'm just going to stamp that a couple times. Again, got to have odd numbers. Here's my 3s. I've created my triangle. My focal points in the upper left-hand corner. Rules of thirds. It's just something my eyes do. So I grabbed a piece of scrap from my cardstock bin, and I stamped my sentiment in the Early Espresso, and I was going to continue to fight with my trimmer and said, nope, I'm going to use my scissors to cut my thin strip from my sentiment because I can never cut a thin strip. The tonic cutter does cut thin strips, but when I've got a sentiment on it, I cannot line it up for the life of me. So I'm going to add some foam squares to that as well. I'm going to curl my edge, as I always do when I fishtail my sentiment banners, and I'm going to set that in place. We're now going to set, we are now going to use the aqua baker's twine that I have, and I'm going to put my tag string on that, knot it up and trim it. And then we're going to set that in place. Again, I'm going to fight with the foam squares. And then we're also going to, because you'll know that string can't just flop in the wind there, so I'm going to use my mini glue dots and just secure that in place at the knot so that it's secured. I'm going to put this, since I've already got dimension on my card, I'm going to put this straight down on my card bases. All of my card bases for this, and now again, this is part 1. For part 1 and part 2 are white 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding. So now I'm going to use the star stamp from the kit. Did a lot of embossing on this. So I'm going to put that in my Versamark, and I'm going to just cock it to the left a little bit. I'm going to stamp that down onto my Nina Solar 80 pound. And the first color up is gold. And again, this is my Recollections from Michael's Arts and Crafts store. And we're going to heat set that in place. We're going to shake it again like we don't care, because we want to make sure that this is cool, because we're going to overlap with the second star. So we're going to ink it back up with the Versamark, and we're going to stamp that down this way, cock to the right. We're going to put a little bit of pressure to make sure that it gets down around where it overlapped with the gold. And the next color up is going to be our silver. And then just making sure there's no strays. Which you can see the embossing pad really does do a good job. So what's cool is when you look at this head on, the silver is solid. What's really cool, when you kind of cock it to the side, you can still see the color underneath. So I did it a third time, because again, gotta have threes. And that time it was in copper. And the sentiment that I chose for this one was Happy Hanukkah. I'm going to use one of my Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies. And then I also pulled from my stash a piece of dark blue cardstock, or navy blue, and cut that out as well. That's a little bit larger with the Lawn Fawn. I'm going to use my Fun Foam to prop my card up. And I also, when I use my Fun Foam, I do use my scrappy tape. I want a really strong adhesive. I don't like using liquid glue, and I don't want to use my tape runner, even though it is a strong bond. But I do like the scrappy tape or score tape. I think it does have a stronger seal when it comes to that, because your Fun Foam is porous. So you want to make sure that you've got good adhesion. This will cover up my entire card base, but of course I went off. No fear. Get your long scissors and just trim it. No one will ever know but you. And the only way they'll know is if you say something. I'm going to put glue dots all over this. And yes, the iridescent sequins are in play. And they have made the comeback on this card. So very glittery? Yeah, can't say that. Lots of glitter, lots of sparkle. So, there's my Altenew inks. I'm going to start out getting my Altenew inks. I am going to start collecting these. And yeah, I'm going to then go into the Gina K inks, you know that. So the first color I'm using the tree, was Frayed Green. The next color that I'm using is Forest Green. There's my dauber again, and I'm just going to tap around. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm not trying to create branches. Just trying to create a level of depth when it comes to the tray. And it looks great. The last color I'm going to use is Evergreen, so it's going to be a lot heavier on the bottom. I do suggest a stamp positioning tool for this. You can do it with an acrylic block to line them up. These stamps are very easy to line up. I just know that I would not have done it well. It's just what I know. It wouldn't have worked. And you're going to see that because I'm going to prove it, but I got lucky. So I'm going to go clean the stamp because I don't want any of the darker inks on. And I'm going to go back to Frayed Leaf. I'm sorry, I think before I said Frayed Green, it's Frayed Leaf. And I'm going to do a second generation stamp. So I want this in the background. I just want the thought of that tree going on in the background. And to me, it was too light. I held it too long on the paper. So here we go. Yep, fingers crossed. We're going to try to match this up. But they truly, truly are. They are easy to line up. And I actually did it. You know, you just kind of say, go for it and drop it down. So when you want to do a second generation, don't hold it there too long because the ink will transfer from the stamp onto the paper. So you can see by doing that, I've got the same color. So I just have the appearance of the trees in the background. And for these, I just wanted to use the old-fashioned font. Merry Christmas. So here I'm going to be using one of the Lawn Fawn stitched rectangles, and I also cut a panel out of craft, same exact size. I'm going to use a piece of my Fun Foam, and I'm going to set that up onto the design panel. There's more I'm going to do to this design panel. I just wanted to prop it up onto the card base before I did any of all this. So I'm going to use my liquid glue to put this panel down, and you can see since it was the same size, I pushed it up to the left, so it looks like this design's fallen down. I have a whole bucket when I do classes of colored pencils that I've created or collected over the years, or the inexpensive sets that I buy because I love those as well. I just throw them in a bin for my classes. So I grabbed one of them, a dark brown, and just put some brown at the base of the trees. And now it's going to be the sequins galore. So I used the iridescent sequins on the trees to the back. For the tree that's to the front, of course, with all the glorious green going on there, I'm going to use the colored sequins. Now, these colored sequins are those that you can get at your local craft store. You can even get them at the dollar store, and you will never run out. They reproduce on themselves. I'm telling you, I've had this bag for years. So you can see you've kind of got that push to the back and that tree to the front. So here we're going to review what I created, or what we created, in part 1 of the My Monthly Hero Arts November 2017 kit. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'd love to have you part of our group. We love to give tips to each other and try to make crafting fun, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be stressful. So I hope you join me here. I can't thank for those of you that are already my subscribers. We have gone over 3,000. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm building up for something big very soon. So I look forward to talking to you again with part 2. No, everything I used will be linked down below. Remember, everyone, always be creative. Ask me your questions, and I'll make sure I get back to you. Take care.